and welcome to the A to Z Sports Big Orange Podcast. That's right. It's the Rocky Top Club Mix. And if you've watched this show at length, watched us for a while, you know what that means. That means the Tennessee Volunteers have won something of significance for me to play this silly version of this song. And this one is as big as it gets. The baseball Vols go to Omaha, Nebraska, and they lay down the law. They are your 2024 College World Series national champions. Oh my gosh, is this real, Zach? Oh! Go freaking Vols. I'm going to keep this right in the background. What is up, Zach?
It still doesn't feel real, to be honest. I don't think it's set in at all. We've been through this whole journey, and it ended the way we all wanted it to. I'm just not used to it, and just waiting for it to be like, oh, that didn't really happen. It doesn't. The magnitude of it has not set in, I guess I should say. It has. I think I'll take a few days, maybe a week. We'll get there, but it's still just kind of like this euphoric dream in a way.
I had a moment of texting with some friends yesterday. We had like a big group text of Vol fans, and just randomly, I just texted because it just hit my mind. I just randomly was like, I can't believe we won a national championship, and it's 25 years. I mean, it's January of 1999, folks. Was the last time that a major men's sports at this university won a national championship, and here we are. I said it in the tweet that promoted this episode that we're recording live right now. I didn't know if this day would ever come. I've always said it. I've always said that, oh, well, Tennessee has the resources and the money and everything that can make this happen. And the day will return when that national championship comes. But, you know, there are fans of schools. Texas A&M is a perfect example. They're fans of schools who are born and die without ever seeing this. I don't know. I don't mean to get on here and preach, but this is so special. It's really incredible. Obviously, on today's show, we will be talking all about the national championship. I have an entire spiel that I do at the beginning of every show. I haven't done any of it. Wherever you listen throughout the world, we thank you so much for listening to us. Zach Reagan, Charlie Burris, thank you for tuning in to our special national championship edition of the show. We talk everything Vols every week here on the Big Orange Podcast. Go to the A to Z Sports Podcast Network feed on Apple, Spotify. When you get there, rate, review. Most importantly, subscribe, because then you won't miss our episodes when we drop them on Mondays. But we're not doing this one on a Monday because the national championship was on Monday. And then I went to the parade yesterday. We're going to talk about that too. And then we're here today because this is when we could do it. And go to YouTube, subscribe on YouTube, A to Z Sports Nashville YouTube channel. Come hang out with us there. Obviously, come in, comment. We love going back and forth with everybody. This should be a great one. At Charlie_Burris, A to Z Sports, Facebook.com/A to Z Sports, A to Z Sports.com for everything Zach writes on the internet. Oh! All right, we got all the administrative work out of the way now. A little more Rocky Top Club mix. It's the absolute best. I can't believe it. I can't believe Tennessee won a national championship. 40. As I said, obviously that is what we'll be talking about on today's show. We can actually get down to talking about it. Now, as I always have to do, even on a national championship broadcast, this show, got to pay those bills, folks. Farm Bureau health plans have been serving Tennesseans for over 75 years. Much has changed in Tennessee over the years, but some has stayed the same. Farm Bureau health plans has always valued personal relationships, especially when it comes to good health and good service. Plan on Farm Bureau for health, dental, and vision. For better coverage, better rates, and better service, go to fbhp.com/ATOZ or walk into one of their 200-plus locations across the state. That is fbhp.com/ATOZ. Farm Bureau health plans. Huge shout out to them. Been with us since the beginning. All right, let's actually, in a serious way, without the Rocky Top Club mix playing in the background, let's talk about what happened in that national championship game Tennessee 6, Texas A&M 5. Since we talked last, that entire series unfolded. We didn't have any shows in between in any of the games there. Tennessee loses the first game, wins the second, wins the third. I'll start right here. We're going to talk about Texas A&M and their crazy coaching situation a little bit later. But let's give credit right off the top to Texas A&M. That team was way tougher than I thought they were going to be. And I say that because, I came on this show and I said, oh, it's going to be really serious. It's going to be a great series. But in my head, I have battered Vol syndrome banging around in there for sure. But I also looked at the situation. I went, Tennessee's way better than these guys. And I don't know that I projected that on here. I really didn't. I know what I said. But I thought there was the potential Tennessee was going to run those boys out of the gym, And Texas A&M just put up a heck of a fight. I don't know if you have anything to say about them, Zach, without getting too serious about their clown of a coach, but that I just had to give them a shout out.
Yeah, I mean, they played well. They made Tennessee fight for it. I mean, and we kind of knew that it wasn't going to be easy. You get that close to a national championship, regardless of the coach situation and all that. The players were they want to win. They wanted to win badly. That's why they went to A&M. You want to win a national championship if you go to an SEC program, and if you play well, you're gonna have a chance. Man, they made Tennessee fight for it. That first, there were times, in our group text that we were not feeling that confident at times. I won't share the text that we're going back and forth, but there were a few times that we're about ready for football season. And that's just kind of in the you get that close look. If Tennessee would have lost that series, if they would have lost, especially in game 3, a close game, what do you do? I mean, if you're A&M, it's obviously they have the situation that went on, but it's not somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose type deal. And A&M got really, really close. They made a run. They almost came back there on Tennessee, and they made them fight for it. I mean, they were definitely, I feel like the two best teams in the country landed in that championship series. And it's kind of funny because all season, I think we talked about how it's usually not the best team that wins the College World Series, or it's not always the best team that wins the College World Series. You've had the Mississippi States coming out of nowhere, or Ole Miss. And then, this year you got the two best teams. So it's just kind of however it plays out is how it plays out. And A&M definitely, they were a worthy opponent without a doubt, I feel like.
They really were. Ashton says, A&M kept my heart rate too high. We already got it. Man, we got a bunch of comments. Rolly says, let's go Big Orange. Go Big Orange. What a special day, a special week, special year coming up here. Now that you get to bask in it for a full 365. Ashton said, I'm ready to hear Charlie go nuts. You should have heard me the day that it happened. It was crazy. I was standing there. I was just watching it with my wife. It was just us. It was a Monday. I was standing there just telling her, but while the game was still going on, Combs was still pitching, and I was like, what would I do if basketball or football played for a national championship, if it's going to be like this for baseball? It was just so brutal. Then the final pitch happened, freak out, do a lap around my house. Can't believe it. Holy cow. And I collapsed on my wife. I went over to hug her and be like, oh my gosh. And I was shaking and just good. It was unbelievable. So this is as calm as it's gotten for the last few days. It's beyond here. It just has been unreal. Chris says, GBO, Greg says, Greg McElroy sucks. He absolutely does. Another thing we're going to talk about a little bit later. Tree says, I was in Omaha. Lucky. I had a whole set of friends in Omaha. I had work stuff. Couldn't make it work out. But, and it's, Randy, what a feeling listening from Lexington, North Carolina. We appreciate it. Go Big Orange. Football is next. Lordy, I hope so. And Billy Bob says, last time baseball won a championship, football followed. Hope history repeats itself. I assume he's referring to, so that was the very first national championship for baseball, but maybe the last time Tennessee played for a national championship in baseball. That is true. The football team won a national championship shortly after. So maybe if we can keep that trend going, it just is really ridiculous. But we could talk about all the lead up, but let's just go straight to game 3 because we saw it all, and we can, bring in some elements of the other 2 games without going into too much detail there. I mean, the show, that we do have to wrap it up at some point. We can't be here all night. Lose the first, win the second, and that one was huge. You had huge moments there. Dylan Dreiling comes up huge in that one. Even had a home run in the 7th inning in the first game too that you lost. But in game 3, it feels like Tennessee has the momentum. Overall, you're in a really good spot with your pitchers. They were in a good spot with their pitchers too, though. Ultimately, starts out Christian Moore blast, and I'll ask you this, Zach. When that happened, were you? I did have this thought. He hit that home run, and I was like, "Oh, we're winning this national championship." That I was maybe a little too confident because it got a lot more dicey than I maybe thought it was going to get. But that was my first thought when he did that.
Yeah, no, I was excited. I was like, this is certainly a good start. I mean, it gets the momentum instantly in your favor, some energy. But man, if you watch enough baseball, 1-0 never. I mean, there's even in that game, game 2, Tennessee was trailing 1-0 for much of the game. There's always you're a bloop and a blast away from taking the lead. You're a solo home run away from tying it at any point in any count. 1-0, like. You're not going to win a College World Series game 1-0. It seems like, at least not in this series. With the bats that both these teams had, you didn't have a Paul Skeens out there that was just shutting everybody down. Guys were having a battle out there. 1-0 wasn't. It's a good start. I was happy to see it. I was like, all right, we need more of this now. 1-0's not going to get it done. You're going to need. I probably thought 6, 7, 8 runs, and it turned out you didn't need 6. You needed the Hunter Inslee run that was added on with one of the greatest slides of all time that will go down in Tennessee lore. You needed all that. So I was excited, but I was still, man, and it feels like to me there's never any lead big enough, especially if it's 4 or under. If you can tie the game with a single hit, if the bases are loaded, or a single, home run, I'm always kind of on edge. So I was excited. I was optimistic, but I was still very much on edge. In fact, I might have even been more anxious because I'm the type of person that when my favorite team has a lead in a pivotal game, I'm even more nervous than when they're behind because I'm thinking, just don't blow this. You're so close. This game's going the way you want it to go. It was like the Tennessee-Alabama game in 2022 and the Alabama game in 2023 as well. When Tennessee had that big lead at halftime, you see so many times that it can go either way. Like I said, no lead's big enough for me, so I was excited, just still anxious. It's how it goes being a Tennessee fan.
Because like the day before in the game 2, when Tennessee was down 0-1 for all of that time, it's just you're getting close. That clock is ticking. You're getting closer to a loss, closer to a loss, closer to a loss. And the closer you get, you're just getting demoralized. You're not necessarily nervous. You're just like, we're really going to do that. We're not going to score. Are you serious? Then Tennessee gets that lead, and it's the most nerve-wracking thing that you've ever gone through, because you're hanging on for dear life, hanging on every single pitch because you're just one more out closer to that ultimate goal. And I told you all this. I mean, I already said I was shaking and nearly collapsed when Tennessee won the title. But in the 8th inning of the second Florida State game, of the second game of the College World Series, and in the final, in the 8th inning of all of those, I was so nervous that I had to step away, because in all of those, the opposing team got men on and we're moving. And I mean, in the Texas A&M when they scored, and I had, I went and I folded laundry, took out the trash, did all this stuff, and I kind of told Allison, like, just keep me updated. I'll come back.
I recognize those nervous habits.
Oh, I could. You just have to do something with your hands. You're just like, I can't.
I'll just go walk around
and do this.
I'll go walk around outside. Just look at things I've looked at a million times before.
I could not do it. And obviously you got to watch those final outs.
I watched from my iPad that game you're talking about. I put it on the small screen. I was watching something else. I keep glancing, like, all right.
I was trying. During the bulk of the national championship game, I was trying to to look at like Zillow on my laptop. I have my laptop up, and I was just like,
You're gonna
maybe.
move if they lost?
I think I had to. That's what I do. I can't handle it anymore. I gotta get out of here. I gotta escape Tennessee sports. No, but you have to do something. I don't have the nerves like some people seem to. But you came back for those final innings, or that final inning for me. Because the eighth inning thing by the final, it became superstitious. It became, I was like, it worked for the last two.
Yeah.
I'm doing it again in this one for sure. And you come back for the ninth inning, and when it got to specifically 6-4, and you had a man on third, and then the tying run at the plate, you're just, we're screwed. This is all you're thinking is just this is done. You were texting in, you're saying the guy at third, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
And clearly Combs understood that. He's standing there, he balks the guy forward, and he's laughing and wild.
Which he could have even done on purpose. I don't think anyone ever asked him. You see that a lot when there's a runner on second like that. Pitchers, I've seen plenty of times, they'll drop a ball or something while they're on the rubber to move that runner to third so they can pitch out of the windup. It's just a weird quirk about baseball, because that run, like the guy at the plate obviously was the only one that mattered because that's the tying run. Who cares if that runner scores? He ultimately did. That one, didn't really matter that much. So I think that's what Combs, when he was kind of smiling, it was like, I don't care about that guy. I don't care about the wild pitches.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw what I want. Like, I don't care if that guy scores. I gotta get this guy out. That's all that matters.
That's a very baseball centric point of view. Let me be clear, because I never played baseball, like even Pee-wee or anything. I was always basketball guy. And you're a huge baseball guy. Your son plays baseball. I think you played baseball yourself. You're deep in it. I mean, I know baseball, but that was the last thing on my mind. You're just thinking they're within one run. Yeah. What are you talking about? You shouldn't worry about these dudes on the bases.
I will add that I was still super anxious because there's I mean, it's baseball. There's no time limit, right? Like, you got to get the guy out. There is no, the clock is expiring type deal.
It's unbelievable, the anxiety. But okay, so let's back it up from there, because we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves. So that 1-0 blast, and then it's kind of, it's a little uneventful. Tennessee gets a couple more runs across. It's 3-1. You're just thinking, this is a little too close. Little too close. Come on, somebody. We got to do something. Texas A&M puts in that closer. Aschenbach, I think. Ackenhauser, whatever. I don't know. But they put him in, and you had faced him 2 days prior. He had shut you down. He absolutely brought the heat. He looked great. And I mean, when he came in, I was just thinking, we're done. You're done scoring. You were still ahead, but you're just like, we're done scoring here. So you better pray to the Lord that Texas A&M doesn't score more than 3 runs. And I don't know what it was, because I also heard they warmed him up in the second day, which that in some sense, that's thrown pitches. I mean, it is, especially if you get all the way hot, and that's wear on your arm, and not everybody has a rubber arm like Aaron Combs. And I think that affected that kid. Like, it was just sort of assumed that he would come in and be ice cold, me included, assuming there. And Tennessee was really bashing against that guy, even outside of Dreiling's home run. But you get to the 7th, and it looked weird, didn't it? His hit, it didn't look like a home run. I'll say Kavaris Tears hit looked like a home run. I thought, okay, this is it. We're ending this right here, when that ball was in the air with Kavaris Tears. But he just hit it, I think, super high, and it's in the air all that time. They back right up to the wall, and it inched over the wall, out of the grasp of whoever the kid was that was out there. And that's another one, kind of like that Christian Moore one. Did you at that point, were you like, oh, we might really do this? That's where it took that real turn. Christian Moore, I was like, okay, we can definitely win this game. Like, this could really be happening. That home run with Dreiling was where it became, we are winning this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I got the anxiousness in the 9th inning because of what happened. and you just never know. But at that moment, I was like, oh, they like, it's not 100%, but this is going to happen. Like
The likeliness of coming back from that is pretty low.
it's like we don't need a hope and a prayer right now. We don't need a miraculous Tennessee comeback like we saw against Florida State and we've seen in previous years. Like, they just got to hold on. This is theirs. Like, they're just a few outs away from winning a national championship. And in that moment, I think that probably was the moment there in the Dryling home run that it set in, that it was like, they're going to do this. They're actually going to do this. Then, and it was kind of the weight of that moment. I think for me, and now that you bring it up, the weight of that moment was, this is what you've worked for this whole season. This is what this team was expected to do, which is hard. That's a hard thing to do. Like, when you're expected to go win a championship and then you do it, I mean, that's a tough thing. We've seen a lot of good teams not win championships in a lot of sports, especially baseball and basketball. So to be able to do that and to see it through against a really good team, I think all that kind of in that moment was when I was like, oh my God, this is really happening. I'm
feeling that whole weight and the true, I guess, just emotionally taxing time that entire tournament was from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
It really gave me an appreciation. I'll say, Vandy in general can suck it, but especially after this and how annoying their fans have been.
Good Lord, they were passionately pulling against Tennessee.
Oh, I mean, they've been Kentucky too, man. They were.
That was tough. That was tough for them.
Yes, what a tough day for them. That's so sad. But I will say, to win 2 national titles in this thing, like, wow, because that was brutal. Obviously, in the best way. If you win it, I don't know that I've ever had such a gratifying college sports experience. But man, that it's just so long and, like I said, emotionally taxing because you're hanging on every pitch because everything's do or die, and it just and it was just ridiculous. But I was gonna say, to your point there, and how this game went with Dryling, and then obviously we didn't even mention yet, but Inslee's magic slide right after that, Kavaris Tears crazy hit, which, like I said, I thought it was going over the wall.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't, and then Inslee goes all the way from first base to home. And again, to credit Texas A&M, the gun down there, the relay from the wall that's as good as you can do it.
Oh yeah, it was great.
Nearly perfect. He played it with his bare hand, threw it immediately, got it to the relay guy. The relay guy perfectly into the glove in the best position that you possibly could. And Inslee just pulled a Neo in the Matrix, and went right around that guy. And you're feeling really good. And obviously you close it out. But that game was the perfect encapsulation of this team this whole season. To me, it was a microcosm of what this team is. They beat you with that offense, which is what they did in this game. Just squeaked it out. You needed every single one of those. And then they have the pitching that's good enough. Was it elite pitching? No, it wasn't. But it was that pitching that in tight, serious moments, it just seemed like it always came through. I mean, look at the SEC championship game against LSU. Aaron Combs, once again, does he let 1 or 2 runs across, however many it was in that one? Yes. And it was super, super tense. And holy crap, why did it have to be that close? But they figured it out. They got out of the jam. They made it happen. And it was just from front to back. That third game was the perfect encapsulation of everything because it was enough offense to get it done, relentless, and against arguably the best reliever in all of college baseball. I mean, it was poetic. The whole thing was just poetic. The way that went down. You serve up your best offense against the best reliever in college baseball, and then you hang on for dear life with your pitching just like you have all season long. And it's that game is a metaphor for your entire season. It was really, really beautiful, man.
The pitching is the thing about this team. Like, we know all about the bats, but the job that Frank Anderson and Tony Vitello did with this staff, from just the execution of putting the right guys in, making the right decisions, and not every decision was perfect, right? Like, Stamos, the last 2 starts didn't go that well for him. And look, I was on this podcast a week ago saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And I was all for rolling with Stamos and Kazi, even after you pulled him early the last time, because really the previous game was it Florida State?
That first Florida State game,
yeah. Like he didn't really do much. He walked the guy. He had some bad luck with balls in play. He kind of, it was just the move that Vitello decided to make. It wasn't that Stamos was pitching terribly, but it didn't really work out. Like, that move didn't work out, but everything else pretty much did. Like Kirby Cannell was there to bail you out every single time. Nate Snead. You didn't have. I mean, you had Drew Beam, who's been solid, but he hasn't been. I mean, he's been great. Like, I'm not trying to short Drew Beam at all, but he hasn't been like a. And it's not fair to say Paul Skeens, but he just hasn't been like that guy that comes in and is going to pitch 9 innings, a complete game and just shut it down and throw 150 pitches or whatever absurd number we've seen some of these guys do. And then you're using Xander Seacrest, which I think is the most poetic moment, one of the most poetic moments of the entire thing, that he gets to pitch this final game. He's been a midweek guy. Like, he's not a guy that you think is going to pitch the deciding game of the College World Series. When the season starts, you're not thinking that's the guy that's going to be in that position. And then for him to come in and pitch the way he did really throughout the entire postseason, I mean, where would you be without him? Where would you be without Kirby? Without so many of these guys, Nate Snead, Combs, Beam himself, AJ Causey, to manage that staff and to not have this like just true ace type deal, and to not have this what's perceived as a shutdown pitching staff, it's just like Tony Vitello said, it's all about unity in Knoxville and at Tennessee. And that's what this team was about. Like, they just wanted to win. They didn't care how it got done. They didn't care who got the credit or who got the accolades. They just wanted to win, and that's what it takes to win a championship. But the job that they did with the pitching was just incredible to me, because I thought that was the one thing that could slow Tennessee down in the postseason. That and the defense, which the defense had some great moments. Obviously, the outfield defense, some really memorable moments. I mean, that Hunter Inslee catch, earlier in the College World Series, and he's not 100% at all. So that makes that slide even more impressive. Got Tears making a great catch. But some of the infield defense was shaky at times and put some runners on base that didn't need to be on base, but you're able to overcome that. But the fact that the pitching held up like it did, I mean, can never give those guys enough credit for the way they went out there. Just every time their number was called, they were ready to deliver no matter what.
Yeah, there's really just so many elements in this entire thing. It's so much to cover. Yeah, you brought up Seacrest and that entire story, incredible. And then Combs is an entire other thing. Old volley fingers, coming in. That moment, obviously that was the 8th inning. That was one I missed when I was folding
searching for new houses.
Yeah, but exactly. But that is just so electric from a guy who, I mean, he make a go at pro ball, but he's not going to be that guy. And Kirby it's just like that. That was the absolute most perfect send-off that you could think of for that guy. In that's the spot that he was born to be in. Right there, come in, 2 strikeouts in the most pivotal moment in the game where it mattered the most. And from a guy who, again, he's probably not going to have any kind of illustrious pro career or anything like that, but he was built for that thing that he went out there and he did. And it was, like I said, just so electric. Same sort of thing with Combs. And and you can even go back some of the elements with the offense, like Christian Moore, not good through that entire series. Obviously, incredible earlier on in the College World Series, but when you got to the actual final, he struggled that entire time. Just wasn't seeing the ball or whatever was happening. Kavares tears, but then when it mattered, the bat came alive, and he nearly hit that home run that led to the Hunter Inslee matrix, jump to the plate. And
you had a lot of guys step up for sure, because there was some big hits, like Billy Amick. Billy Amick didn't have a great College World Series either, really. But Cal Stark, I mean, couldn't sniff a hit, it seemed like, before he hit that big home run. I mean, that's that's what you love about this college baseball in general, is it takes all 9. Like you cannot win a championship without somebody up and down the lineup producing.
But what it really made me notice is how being on the other side of this entire thing feels now, because what we've been through, go back to that Elite 8. with Connect just a few months ago, and we came on here and said, "Oh, those moments where if he would have just made that pull up jumper, and maybe if you could have had Adu to make this or whatever, just those little moments where you came up short. This is just the exact flip of that. It just is." Those pull-up jumpers went in for the baseball team. Like that's just what ended up happening. Kavaris Tears was so bad in that final series, but then when it mattered, when you needed that 6th run instead of just 5, he hits that thing straight to the back wall. And I mean, it gives me chills just to talk about it because they're all such special moments that happen. Everything leading up to a national championship like that is a special moment because they all count towards that final out. Where you win it all. And, we could talk about it all day long because it was just the series of events to get there was so incredible. Let's go back to the comments quickly because we got a bunch of great ones. I don't want to give up on anybody here. Terry says, GBO, go big orange. Diane says that was the best game ever. I could not agree more. Trish said Houdini Hunter. I love that.
That's insane. That slide. Not to interrupt.
One of the best slides I've ever seen.
The more you watch it, the more it's just the wherewithal to do that. Instincts. Just that's a baseball player, and pure instincts took over there. Yeah. Incredible.
It's not like you can really train that.
No, you can't teach that. You can't practice that. Yeah. It's just instinct. You just
And again, as we were saying, he wasn't 100% even made that play. It's ridiculous. Josh says, give Vitello the key to the damn city. They basically did that last night at that parade. Gonna talk about that in just a second. Jason says, one of the most dominating seasons I've ever seen in baseball. I mean, that's another element to this. Again, I said there's a million things here to talk about. I mean, it was, statistically speaking, all of the records that they broke. The first time an SEC team finished the season with 60 wins. And they come through winning the regular season, the SEC tournament, and the national championship. Like the stamina that takes. There were so many people saying, "Oh, should we purposefully lose the SEC tournament so that we can concentrate on the big show?" And I actually saw in some comments I think it was on Twitter, some Texas A&M fans coming up to that final. Some people were just like, "Oh, you couldn't beat us in the SEC tournament." And some Texas A&M fans saying, "Oh, well, we did that on purpose. We were purposefully not playing." Freaking Prager pitched against Tennessee in the SEC tournament. Let's be 100% clear that their ace pitched against Tennessee in that there. So yeah, don't give me that.
No,
but just all of that. It just what it takes. Again, I've already said that. What it takes to get there is I truly have a new appreciation for it. Because it was just a crazy, crazy ride. The Rolly says the Florida State game was a sign that this was a team of destiny. I'm always scared to use that phrase, but it was.
You can in retrospect. I mean, all you want because it did kind of feel that way. I mean, at the moment, you just think in survive and advance, but looking back, that's a huge moment. I mean, it wasn't as dramatic as the Drew Gilbert home run against Wright State, in 2021. But it was more impactful given the stage, that you were on at that time. Huge. I mean, you got to have moments like that to win a championship, though. That's the thing. Is like you have to have some of those moments. Rarely does anybody just cruise through these things, winning by 5 runs every game and not having any close games. Like you got to have kind of some of those moments and some of those games kind of go your way. Those close ones like that where you're kind of like, well, so we're counting on a loss in that game at that point because so much has to go right to come back. You really got to have those moments.
Yeah, you do. Period. Just some magical things have to happen. I saw whoever that clown is in Nashville radio. I see you guys that tweet.
Oh yeah,
some idiot over there was like, it's like, oh, congratulations to the ump in the Florida State game on his national championship. Oh, kiss my butt.
Yeah.
That is the type of stuff that happens. In the Sweet 16 against Purdue for Tennessee, in whatever year that was, the ref intervened there. They get to move on to the Elite Eight. Should I be bitterly tweeting, oh, congratulations to the ref on the Elite Eight for the these things happen in a you're in an elimination tournament like that.
You're annoyed in the moment, but it doesn't change the outcome ultimately.
Yeah, Because what you could really do, that nobody ever looks at it like this, but there were 10,000 other calls in that game earlier, however many pitches in a single game, and I'm sure some of those calls sucked. And you probably could have said, you could go back to the third inning and be like, what, that should have been a strikeout, and it wasn't. And then so just stupid. And the fact is that you have to have some of those moments to win a national championship. You have to have those moments like, Rolly says Billy Amick. He came through. He stunk in that final series too, and
his biggest hit
had
in a
had
big
a
moment.
huge hit again against the best reliever in college baseball in that entire stretch there. And you have to have stuff like that. A little bit of magic, a little bit of luck. These things, it's what it takes, and that's obviously for years and years and years, it's just felt like that's what Tennessee doesn't have, is that magic, that luck, whatever it takes.
It definitely felt like the magic and the energy was there from the start of the whole series, but especially Game 3 when you have Josh Heupel, Rick Barnes, Morgan Wallen, Peyton Manning, Danny White, all sitting there. They're showing them constantly, on during the game. All A&M have is Jeff Kent over there staring at the ground, whatever he was doing with his headphones around his neck. I don't know. Like you had those guys. It just the energy there just felt like Tennessee has to win this. Like they have to win this. You got to see Peyton on the field celebrating. And how good has it felt these last few years to see Peyton in the locker room after Alabama smoking a cigar? Peyton Manning, high-fiving Josh Heupel and then hugging Tony Vitello on the field and talking about how this is just the start for Tennessee and more championships to come. Like Peyton has suffered, just like all of us, through a lot of bad. To
the point where he got accused of being a curse.
Yeah. I mean, he is witnessed in person a lot of tough, heartbreaking losses in all sports. I mean, he was there in Omaha, last year, right? And then the first time they went. He's just all of that coming together. It's like, I know there's a lot of out there, and we'll get to the Greg McElroy stuff and all that. And there's the opposing fans, the Kentucky fans, the Vanderbilt fans rooting against Tennessee. And I'm just like, why? What is it at this point that you're so like upset about? Like Tennessee has been down for so long and the fans have remained so loyal and so passionate. How could you say that they don't deserve, moments like this that we got on Monday night? I just can't understand it. It's not like it's Georgia winning every championship and you want to see them lose, or Alabama or Kentucky in basketball, where it's just like we're tired, or the Patriots when they were dominating the NFL, and you just don't want to see them win anymore. At this point, like I feel like, maybe that narrative will flip now that Tennessee might be viewed as the good guy with all that went on at Texas A&M with the coach there. He's kind of made himself the villain of college baseball at this point. Yeah. Maybe he kind of took the crown because this Tennessee team they didn't have the brashness of that 2022 team. They played with emotion. They played with passion. They played with an edge, but it was a little different than Jordan Bett flipping somebody off when not that I'm calling out Jordan Bett for that. I have no problem with whatever happens between the lines, but they didn't have any of that going on for people to pull against and root against.
Yeah. How do you look at the thing that piece of crap at Texas A&M, or I guess now at Texas, did and go, Tony Vitello's the villain?
Yeah.
I mean, are you kidding me? That's just ridiculous. We're gonna get to the Greg McElroy thing, but let's finish. Well, we got to do this just quickly. I want to talk about the parade. I went to the parade.
Oh yeah,
yesterday because I want to fit that in before we do anything, and it just you made me think of it with the fan base, saying that this fan base, they deserve every single bit of this. Truly, every single bit of it. I can't emphasize that enough, but let's talk about it after I tell you all about Zen Sports. And I just realized I don't have my read up here for Zen Sports. This isn't
ad
great.
lib, but this will be good.
Zen Sports. It is the sports book that we've been telling you about all season long. That's the very no danger first wager up to $100. We actually have like legal ties here that we actually have to stay with. So I can only say so much. Hold on. Here it is. I got it. when it comes to gambling, it's a little more stringent. I don't want to say too much.
It's not insurance.
Yeah. Well, if I can actually get it open. Yeah. All right. When you sign up for Zin Sports, you'll automatically earn up to $100 with no danger. First wager. If your bet loses, you'll be reimbursed for the amount up to $100. But there's more good news. Zin Sports has their VIP rewards program. If you qualify, you'll earn monthly comps at sporting events, concerts, you name it, even sports book bonuses. The VIP program is by invite only. You can check out the program at zinsports.com/VIP. What are you waiting for? Zin Sports offers true odds on all parlays. So get going and download their app at zinsports.com today. Zin Sports betting just got better. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-889-9789. Terms and conditions apply. No danger. First wager limited to plus 500 odds to qualify. Boosted odds are derived from equivalent parlay bets offered in Tennessee. Must be 21 or older in Tennessee. Bet Zin Sports. Go download that app. Okay, so when it comes to our role in this entire thing, I mean, we have put in the fans, Tennessee fans, have put in 25 years of walking through the wilderness. You know, and there's certainly been high points. The last 5 years have obviously been some of the best. In any recent memory we've been talking about. I mean, in years past, we've been talking about how this really feels like a golden age of Tennessee sports where sort of everything is at least pretty good. But the 20 years prior to that, everything was at least pretty not good. So basketball had its moments through some of those years and maybe 1 or 2 seasons of football. But man, I mean, baseball, especially like under Todd Raleigh and all of that. Serrano did his damnedest. Serrano's an amazing guy, and he actually was in Omaha and came to Tennessee events and stuff. He's great. I think he might even live in Knoxville now. I ate beside him at a restaurant a little while ago, and saw him out in public. But you know, it just has been the slog of all slogs, as our friend Mark Nagy calls it, the decade of dysfunction. Great book in which I'm actually quoted. Go buy his book, but it's just been ridiculous.
He can cancel the sequel at this point.
He can. He actually, Mark announced on Twitter that with this national championship, it officially ends the decade of dysfunction. And I think that's correct.
Nice.
I mean,
yes,
obviously you're not dysfunctional if you're winning national championships. So it does kind of wrap up that chapter. But you just saw with this victory what this fan base truly is, and the release of this. Obviously, that's the main reason that we were all so just on pins and needles, nervous and shaking, and all these things. And then the release that you all saw, how many people went to Omaha and how crazy it was. And then when they get back for this parade, I went to it yesterday in downtown Knoxville, and I've lived here almost my entire life. Outside of 6 years of my life, out of 32, I have lived in Knoxville. I have never once seen that many people in downtown Knoxville. It was unbelievable. I posted a picture of it on my Twitter, and it looked like a literal endless sea of people down Gay Street in Knoxville. Which, if you don't know downtown Knoxville, that's the main drag, and it on both sides of the road. The team came up through the middle of all of that, and they just barely had enough room to fit the cars through that they came in on, and people were just jammed on both sides all the way down. And then into Market Square, it was so closely packed around the stage that you could not pass through to get, Market Square. You could pass through it, and you could not get to the other side. And it was just absolutely ridiculous, and an exact testament how special this fan base is, because after all of the last 25 years, every single one of us deserves this so badly. So direly did we deserve something like this kind of payoff. And I can't believe that I'm going to get emotional, man. It's just incredible. It just is the most fantastic, unbelievable thing that could happen after all of this, just miles and miles of crap that we've crawled through. And that's the payoff that you get. Is just the most people I've ever seen in one place, all celebrating all at once. It was unbelievable. But I did you get to watch it online, Zach?
Oh yeah, I saw all kinds of stuff coming out of it. I mean, what a time. You see Tony Vitello like down in the Miller Lite, or Blake Burke, you're crushing one there. They deserve it. I mean, they deserve every
Yeah.
bit of that, every bit of the celebration. You know, for somebody like Greg McElroy to come at them for Tony Vitello for celebrating, which was I assume over the brief moment with the post game interview. That's all I can imagine that was that little mini rant was about. Man, like you said, everybody deserves that. Every fan, every player, everybody associated with the program. You saw the excitement from Josh Heupel, from Rick Barnes. Like I'm sure it energizes them and makes them want to win one even more. But also just the pure joy that they had for Tony Vitello, and because they saw, they weren't there from the beginning, or Barnes was, Heupel wasn't. Uh, the way that he built this program, in 2017, this wasn't. It was an afterthought, right? Like you had some diehards going to games. It was like you said before, it was something to kind of do on a weekend afternoon. And the energy, the way it's changed, this is the vision Tony Vitello had for this program when he took over. It was his first head coaching job. This is what he wanted to do. He wanted to build this culture, and it wasn't like we're going to win a championship by this year or whatever. It was just we're going to build this culture, and this is how our team's going to be. These are the kind of players I want. And he went out and executed that vision because he had the right leadership in place, especially once Danny White took over in 2021. Just really when things started taking off. He lost an entire year due to COVID, which
Yep.
people don't really mention. I mean, that's an entire
And a
year.
year where the team started off really strong. That amount of the season that they got to play.
So, I mean, he's had some adversity he's had to deal with. And then you're in the middle of building this program, and all of a sudden, transfer portal and NIL becomes a thing. So, he's managed that obviously incredibly well. Everyone at Tennessee has. But you had to kind of audible to, okay, how do we address this? We got to be at the forefront of this. We have to approach this the right way. There was no handbook on how to handle any of that. And he's just executed it perfectly. And to see it come to fruition like it did, just as a person, you have to be happy for Tony Vitello. But then just the program as a whole, the fans, everybody associated with it, like you said, why would you not have that moment? Why would you not want to celebrate? And if you're Tony Vitello, that's what you've worked for. And in that moment, I think he was probably the happiest for his players, for his dad being able to see that, how close he is with his dad, and for him to be able to be there and to share that. I mean, it's such a joyous moment for him. And it's one of those moments that they don't come along in life often. And when they do, you embrace it, and whatever emotion comes out is what comes out. And that's one thing about Tony Vitello is he's genuine. I mean, if he thinks it, he's probably saying it. And he'll go off on the tangents. He's an interesting guy. He's a smart guy, a lot smarter than I think people realize. And it's just him. Like, he's organically him. He's not putting on an act. And that's the great thing about it. I feel like everyone at Tennessee now, it's true of Heupel, it's true of Rick Barnes, it's true of Danny White. Like, they're genuine, and that's why it works. So then for Greg McElroy to come in and say the things that he did, I don't want to, look, I know he's from Alabama and he played there, and it's the rivalry and all that, but the business of what we do, I see a lot of what Greg McElroy does, and like his analysis on football is good. He's a smart guy. He's usually pretty fair. And we talked about this before we started recording. Like that was kind of out of character for him. He usually doesn't dive into that world. Like, that's the Skip Bayless world. That's the Clay Travis, no matter what pro Clay or not. Like that's kind of the stuff that they thrive on, and that's fine. I do a lot of that too, but Greg, usually that's not his avenue, right? Like, he's more of a just, what you see is what you get. We're going to try to look at this objectively and see what, what's what. And it felt weirdly personal.
Yeah.
And it was just unfair. It was just so unfair to Tony Vitello in that moment. Like, who are you? Who are you as a commentator to tell Tony Vitello how he should celebrate, how he should react, how he should feel in that moment? It's no one's place to do that. Regardless of it being Tony Vitello or Tim Corbin at Vanderbilt or whoever is celebrating a championship. That's you in that moment. Just be genuine. That's all you ever really want. He didn't hurt anybody. He didn't call anybody out. He wasn't talking trash to A&M or Florida State or UNC or anyone they beat along the way. He was just overcome with emotion and joy in that moment, and I loved it. Like that's the kind of guy you want to play for.
It was the best.
Yeah, I mean, not everybody's that way. Some people want to go play for a little more buttoned up, like Tim Corbin. That's fine. I have zero issue with that. But these guys want to play for Vitello, and you listen to him. You listen to Drew Beam. You listen to Xander Seacrest, and somebody, Ben Hall mentioned, Xander saying that Tony's like a father figure for him. How can you hear that and then throw shade at that guy and talk junk about the way he celebrated? I don't get it. Like I like you, Greg, but I cannot. It's a bad take. It's a real bad take, and the apology that he sent out was not sufficient in my eyes. Like he apologized because he had to. When you take that much heat online, you got to do something. You either stand by it or you apologize. And his apology felt more like I shouldn't have said it out loud.
Yes,
and
that's exactly
the issue I had with it.
Yes, he was sorry that he vocalized it on a radio show that everybody heard. I mean, I guess we didn't even say he just said that what was his exact verbiage? Did he say that he just didn't respect what Vitello did after that game, or that it was just over the top, or something? Because Vitello
have more class or something like that.
Yeah, so shut up. I mean, it just was so dumb. And Vitello jumped into the crowd. He did when they gave him the Powerade shower or whatever. He did the suck it. If you, I'm not going to do it here, but the folks that know. And he's just 100% truly Tony Vitello all the time. He doesn't have another gear. He's the type of guy that where he's not married, and to anybody else's knowledge, I don't think he has any kind of significant other, and everybody just sort of says he's married to baseball, basically. And he just is this unique dude that is obsessed to a crazy degree with the thing he is doing, and it shows in every single way. And he's obsessed with also, being the best coach for these guys, and really having that relationship with his players that you can tell they admire him as a man and as a coach, and they want to play for him, and there's camaraderie there. It's not just purely fear. It's not like a Nick Saban thing at all, or Corbin, or whoever, you want to say there. It's a true, I love this guy. Like that's sort of just, that's my coach. And Vitello is that dude that gets that reaction out of his players, and it's incredible. And you saw today, I would say this is 100% a recruiting tactic, and you gotta make hay while the sun shines, for sure. And this is the goldenest opportunity you're ever gonna have. Like every player, current and former, got on Twitter today and was like, Tony Vitello is the dude you want to play for. If you're a high school player, this is the guy. Why would you ever want to play for anybody other than this? And they all tweeted stuff like that all over today. It was amazing. Very convenient given what's happening at Texas A&M. But that I don't think that he's forcing them to tweet that. I'll say that. I think all of those dudes genuinely think that. You hear it from the players that played for him at the very beginning when he wasn't winning as much as he is now. And you hear it from the guys that just won this national championship. They love this dude, and they will stand by him till the end, because he's their guy. And he'll get up and give you that sort of, I'm a man, I'm 40 type of speech, like he did before the College World Series, where he got up and he said, Cal Start, that's my guy. That's my guy. And you can tell that he's not doing that to perform. That's who Tony Vitello is. And it just translates so beautifully into what he's doing. He was truly born to do what he's doing. I don't think this will be the last national championship we see out of him. And I think there's a real sentiment from listening. Obviously I've consumed every piece of media possible around this the last few days. At a national level, the feeling is, oh, this is a dynasty that's about to start. Like, this is just the beginning, because this guy is obsessed with this, and we're just seeing the beginning of Tony Vitello. It's really, really special, man.
Yeah, I mean, we said it for a couple of years now that him winning a championship was inevitable, and here it is. But the last thing on the McElroy thing, I think the thing that really just that crawls under my skin about that whole deal is that this isn't like Vitello's not an ego guy. It's never been ever a look at me. I mean, if you follow this team week in and week out, and you listen to some of his press conferences and some of his interviews, he's one of the more self-deprecating coaches that you'll hear, in a humorous way. But he's always putting the credit back on the players. Like, we won despite whatever I was doing in the sixth inning with that decision. Like, he's never, you see a lot, especially in baseball, a lot of guys that are just, well, that was the matchup, this, and he's explaining it away, but he's just in the moment. He's just out there trying to win a game with his guys, and he's going to make the right decision sometimes. He's going to make the wrong decision sometimes. I mean, it's going to happen. I don't care how good of a coach you are. I don't care how many championships you've won. You're not going to push all the right buttons, especially in a sport as unpredictable as baseball. And that's what annoys me the most about McElroy's comments is you're coming after a guy that is so for the players, and he was a player. He was a player at the highest level at Alabama, and I don't care that Saban was one way and that Vitello was another. It's always about the players. The players are the ones winning the games. They're the ones that have to go out there and execute whatever the vision of the head coach is. It's about them, and Vitello makes it about them. He's always made it about them. So that was the biggest reason I felt that was totally out of bounds. I don't know, what that stems from. I know McElroy mentioned, some personal things. That doesn't have anything to do with Tony Vitello. It's not sufficient. Like, I'm not going to hold it against you forever, Greg, because we all make mistakes, but you got to own it better than that.
I mean, if you got personal stuff going on, like he claims, like, just
and that's fine.
Be extra careful with what you're going to say that day. I did radio for years. These things do happen, but I mean, dude, I was almost more pissed at Cole Kubelik not flipping right around and being like, "You're an idiot. Shut up." I don't know if it took a restraint on Cole's part not to do that, but man, we will move on because I do think that Greg is good at what he does around football. But yeah, maybe keep the Tony Vitello talk all to yourself behind closed doors there, Greg. Because I tweeted that earlier. It's okay to just say that you hate that Tennessee won a national championship. It's okay. You're an Alabama guy. I would hate it if Alabama, whenever they win national championships and stuff, I hate it. But I just say that, I mean, it's okay.
Especially when you're less than a year removed or a little over a year removed from the whole Nate Oates and Brandon Miller and all that whole debacle. Like, that's not even in the same stratosphere as Tony Vitello eating some ice and it's not even in the same universe. So it is a weird, bizarre deal, and it's unfortunate that it's overshadowed. It hasn't really overshadowed anything. Just the fact that it's even been a storyline. Like, it's all about the championship, man. That's all that really matters.
Well, speaking of storylines that are overshadowing anything that's happening with Tennessee's national championship, I mean, obviously, the Tennessee fans, there's not going to be anything that overshadows this. But on a national level, old Schlossnagel over there at Texas A&M. Oh, I did see this question from Ben Hall. I just noticed it again. He did it maybe before we move on. He did ask, would Vitello keep his same drive if he got married? I don't know. But I would put it this way. Will he ever get married because of the drive that he has? That's really the question that I ask at this point. Maybe you win enough national championships at a certain point and you're like, okay, I can cool it a little bit. But
it doesn't seem to be slowing Josh Heupel down. I mean, side note, Josh Heupel, and it's not something that gets a lot of publicity, but his mother passed away in May. It wasn't reported until I think like a week later. And right after that, he had to host a huge official visit recruiting weekend, and he didn't miss a beat. And that's like, on paper, it's just like, okay, you go do this, you execute that. But the emotion of that, that's like
scary.
Yeah, it is. And I don't think the guys get enough credit for some of the things like that.
No, I've always said it, so especially football coaches, you got to be a complete psycho
Yeah.
to do that, and couldn't be me. Congratulations to everybody that does do it. There's a reason you guys make the big bucks, but to get back to what we were talking about, JL says it would be nice to get a couple of Texas A&M transfers, and they are all transferring. You would kind of say, hey, well, why are they transferring from Texas A&M? They just played in a national championship game. That's crazy. Well, their coach flipped around, and the day after they played for a national championship, and he got asked about this job that he ended up taking in the press conference after the national championship game, and freaked out and denied it. Said I came to Texas A&M for this to be my last job, or whatever nonsense he said. He goes and leaves for Texas. Texas. I mean, I texted y'all and I said, imagine if Josh Heupel plays for a national championship and loses. You don't win the national championship. It's not as good as it could get, but it's pretty close. And then the next day leaves for Alabama. Like, imagine that. And frankly, their whole deal with Texas is probably even more obsessed and crazy.
Yeah,
it's Tennessee, Alabama. Yeah. And we all know how crazy that is. I have a whole part of my family that went to Texas A&M on my mom's side. And I've been down there a bunch. It's an absolute nut house. They have fight songs that they do at every game. It doesn't matter. They don't have to be playing Texas. And they have songs that they chant that mention Texas. Like, it is around the clock, absolute insanity. And he left for Texas the next day. Imagine that. Handled it in the absolute worst way possible with this post game. He flips out on the reporter that asked him about it and says whatever ridiculous garbage he said. And supposedly he said that's a really selfish question. And I came to Texas. I left my family to come to Texas A&M. Turns out I think that there was some speculation on Texas A&M's message boards that there was infidelity there and all these things. Allegations. Take it for what it is. Texas A&M fans are very mad right now. Who knows what's true? But he says, I left my family to come to Texas A&M for this to be the last job I ever take, or some crap like that. And he stormed off and supposedly went up to the reporter and said, I will never speak to you again. And then he left. And then essentially got on a plane to go to Austin, Texas, or got a car. It's a very short drive from there. I don't know. What'd you think about this one, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like you could see it coming the moment that you knew that Texas was making a change. Just the connection with the AD, that they had been at TCU together. I was like, okay, yeah, Texas is gonna swing big. It wasn't like it was a guaranteed situation that was going to happen, but you're like, oh yeah, I could see this playing out that way, or this guy leaves for Texas after this, especially if they lose. I was still surprised it happened so quickly, but yeah, from the press conference, the guy that asked, he was a younger reporter, asked the question in probably like the most respectful way you could ever ask that question. And look, it had to be asked. Somebody had to ask it. All the rumors floating around. That was one of the big stories of the day, outside of the game. If nobody asked that question, everybody's tweeting, everybody's asking, how do you let that guy off the hook and not ask him about this job? It's what you have to do. He asked it in the nicest possible way. I mean, and that guy, you could tell from the moment, I mean, when he answered, I was like, okay, yeah, this guy's probably gone, because every time it happens like that, and he never really denied it, because he said, I took this job. I didn't take this job to take another job, and that hasn't changed what it was in my mind. And when you put that little qualifier, that hasn't changed in my mind. It's like, well, it could change, and you're leaving that open. And there's some reports that it might have changed before they even played the series, which is if you're an A&M fan.
There are reports from Kendall
Rogers.
I can't think of his, Kendall Rogers, who he's a Texas A&M guy. He's a national college baseball reporter now. But I believe he went to Texas A&M So he's pretty connected there. And he
Mhm.
reported that Schlossnagle agreed to that. Might not have been pen on paper, but essentially had spoken to Texas about it and agreed to it before the regional that they hosted, like way before. If I'm thinking, I believe that's what the tweet said.
Mhm.
Like, that is insane and just down, dirty, disgusting, just the worst of college athletics, because there's now actually some speculation that maybe some of his players were in on it. At least knew, like, he maybe had spoken to them and like, hey, I'm gonna go make this job, you should come with me, which I believe that would be a fairly serious NCAA violation potentially. I don't know, but screw the NCAA, who cares? But like, he does this and keeps it. I would assume keeps it from his players unless there are guys like that he wants to take with him, and then they're completely screwed over and just sitting there, no coach. We just made a national championship game. What are we even supposed to do now? And of course, they, as we already mentioned, they flip around. Basically, the entire team's in the transfer portal. Like, anybody that matters on that team is now in the transfer
Mhm.
portal. And I will. This is my conclusion here. I don't really care that much, and Tennessee should go take some of their players. That's my.
Oh yeah, I mean that's hey,
No, I feel bad for Texas A&M. I truly do.
I do too. I mean it's
Yeah, that's horrific, man.
you lose a national championship, you lose your coach, which you know what are you losing at that point? Once that happens, it's kind of like all right, well, good riddance. This is a really bad spot we're in, but clearly, if that's the kind of guy you are, but losing the entire roster or the players that matter, like you said, that's pretty tough. Like that's a bad spot to be in for A&M fans. A&M fans that are they're just fans. Like they're just want to see their team win, just like we want to see Tennessee win. But we have been in that situation before, specifically with football. Not really losing the national championship, but far like rock bottom, way more than where they're at. Like we've
Yeah.
been there. You'll get through it. It might even be better. I mean, Tennessee's, Rick Barnes, Heupel, Tony Vitello, none of those were home run grand slam hires. Barnes was a retread that had been, let go by Texas. Heupel was like way down on the list, somebody we weren't even considering early on, and we had to talk ourselves into why it might work. Vitello, like, unless you're in the weeds baseball guy, who knew who Tony Vitello was when he was an assistant at Arkansas? Sometimes your best hires are the ones that just fall into your lap type deal. So
Yeah.
I think A&M will be fine. They have an incredible amount of resources, lots of money, so much money. They have plenty of cash to spend on NIL and a new coach. They'll be fine, but it is a pretty dark spot for them to be in. And yeah, it's tough when you're taking the side of another. I mean, I know it's two SEC programs at this point with Texas coming, but to take the side of A&M, they really had to get screwed over pretty bad, and that was just the worst way to do it. If you're going to do it, there's better ways to do it. You could handle the press conference better. You could have waited a couple of days. I guess the portal and all that kind of the timelines. You don't really have the luxury of waiting a week or two or longer like you did, in years past. But there's definitely still, even with the constraints on time, a better way that he could have handled it all.
Yeah, that's about as bad as it gets, as far as Kiffin's up there. And I think Ben said, imagine if Kiffin had left for Alabama. Like, eventually he did go there,
Oh yeah,
but initially to USC. At least it was a team that we don't really care about. But yeah, I mean, that would essentially be like if he had gone to Alabama,
he
to
did have
Georgia,
bodyguards when he came in back in 2014 as the offensive coordinator.
he
And
did.
I covered that game, and I remember I went down to the Alabama end of the field when they were coming out the first time for warmups, and I waited, and I was not alone. There was quite a few people, and he came out with police officers on both sides of him that followed him around all through. They were even with him when how they walked around the field before fans get into the stadium when they first come in. I remember sitting in the press box, and he had guys with him then walking around that night. So it's
He knew how serious
even
it was.
5 years or 4 years later, it was still pretty
And
serious.
in a very real way, I would bet at that series next year, because they're gonna be in the SEC next year. there's probably going to have to be some extra security
He better
in a
hope
real
they're
way.
not in College State. I don't know where they're playing next year or what that
Yeah,
schedule looks like, but if it's in College Station.
yeah, I would look out, boy. My goodness, because they are. Yeah, I mean, obviously, people have been seeing the tweets and the different things have been saying like they're apoplectic, I would say. So, and I can't blame them. But point of all of that being, now tons of really, really good players are available, and Tennessee needs to go get them. And I'm sure that Tony Vitello will do his best to at least go and test those waters a little bit. We'll see. Something else that we're going to have to talk about is the NBA draft. It's actually happening while we're doing this. I don't know if we'll make it long enough to see Dalton Connect get taken, but it just started. The French guy got taken first. But I would guess top 10 is the projection, maybe even top 5 if somebody gets greedy with Connect. So we'll see. We'll talk about that next week, but I'll kind of leave it here. Anything else with baseball national championship? Can't believe we got to do a national championship shows.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure there's plenty of thoughts. I'm sure that I've had these past 2 days, but nothing else that really comes to the forefront. Just said that it's still the can't really believe it happened moment. It'll set in. It'll set in, and we'll bring it up a lot with trash talk with other fan bases in the coming years, and it's nice to now have that in our back pocket that we can throw that at Vanderbilt, we can throw it at Kentucky and Arkansas and some of these other fan bases that really love to talk trash. Especially Arkansas for sure.
And maybe a little bit of that. Oh well, maybe Tony Vitello will come when our coach leaves.
Yeah,
the man won a national championship. He's getting a $100 million stadium at Tennessee. Probably not.
And no, not most importantly, I don't know how to phrase it exactly, but one of the big storylines from before the season turned out to not matter one bit. Did not matter that you didn't have Chase Burns. You won it anyway, and he made it to Omaha. So
I know somebody in the comments said that.
I saw that. That's what made me think of it. I saw
it just felt like a little bit of too much of an aside there to bring up on this particular show. But I wonder how he's feeling today.
He'll probably feel better next month when he's in a top 5 draft pick and you just have a big signing bonus. But still, you cannot buy a national championship. You cannot buy being a part of a national championship team.
Exactly. He will be just fine. No doubt about that. Charlie Burris, Zach Reagan. This has been a national championship edition of the A to Z Sports Big Orange podcast. Truly, thank you to everybody who tuned in to hear us go nuts. I can't believe it. We really did this. We really did it, guys. Well, the baseball team did it.
We did it. We all collectively did it.
What we did was make it through 25 years of absolute nonsense to get here, and you've reached the mountaintop. Once again, it's the absolute best. It just is so crazy. But thank you for watching. We could not do this show without each and every one of you. Thank you to everybody who tuned in, commented. It means the world. Seriously, we love you all. You made it this far. You know where to find us on social media and stuff. And we will talk to all of you about the NBA draft, anything else that happens with maybe the transfer portal with baseball, everything next week.
See you guys.